Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's March 3rd. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and another wild and crazy day. What it looked like we were going to have a range day early on. You can see how flat we were here. Support here, resistance right up in this area. Then we had this failed break higher and turned down, and it was all downhill from there. Um, And really from then on, we had a two-tiered channel working lower. Notice we had a break here and continued on before we bounced back. Of course, once we broke lower here, like always, just measure this upper range and look for a possible measured move. You can see we did find some support and resistance right there, but we continued on lower. And it's not surprising. Actually, the Fed did a emergency rate cut today and cut the federal rates by half a point. So you really thought that would drive this thing higher, and it didn't. So I guess maybe it spooked people even more. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what time that rate came in. Maybe it was right here on this big spike. I'm not sure. I didn't even look to see what time. I just heard it on the radio that they did make a rate cut. So um, lots of trades in here, mostly shorts because this was all downhill really from this point on. But again, when you have these bounces, there's trends in here big enough that you can try to trade this to the upside. So really, there's no reason not to try to trade this both ways when the trends and moves are this big. So notice there's not a lot of longs in here today, but there still will be some. And I'm limited to time today, so I'm going to move through this really quickly. But there's the big picture. And you know, you like to catch these breakouts because if you catch one, if you get in this on this breakout up here, you can ride this all the way down. That's an important high for the day. And even right here, if you caught this breakout, that's an important low for the right at that moment. I mean, that one move, if you catch a runner on that, that's all you need. I mean, you can make a week's worth of trading right there on one move on days like this. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to back on out where it's easier to see. But just remember, we started out looking like, well, we started out in a range. You can see that tight range here. But as the day progressed, it just became a downtrend. And this range is really big. 3,050 to almost 3,100. I mean, that's a 50-point range. I mean, that's a, you know, most days you wouldn't call that a range, but today it's a range, and you know, you have to play it like one as well. So until it proves otherwise. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, 7 o'clock came right on this little move down right here. Notice there's a little two-legged move down. It doesn't break higher right here, but you come down, correction. So there's two legs down to a new low, double bottom there, basically. And this thing actually, let me make this still not quite big enough to see everything. So I'm going to back out a little more. And this thing actually breaks lower and turns and goes out the other side. With that being a double bottom, this being support across here, as you can see from earlier, right in there, and even into yesterday, I think there was support resistance there. But that's an important low, and you're at least probably going to bounce back to the EMA. So I like that one, just to ride it back. There's a higher low here, but it's right into the EMA, and then we push on through and pull back, and you get that little reversal type pattern. But you got a 2-bar matching low, and that's really your signal bar. It's not great, but I mean, it's still a trap, so you may go long right there. And it's a range, and we're trying to get long on this side to ride it back to the other side. And then, of course, we're running up. You finally get a break. And notice what happens. You got a new high. You try to go higher once. You try to go higher twice. So you got a failed second entry long right there. You got a double test of this high. You got a triple top, and you got a big bearish bar, and you still haven't got back to the EMA yet. Just take that, hoping to ride it back to here, and who knows. And this thing ends up running for 15 points or so. And of course, you get to really the way I got this channel was I drew this off the top here and drug it down. It looked like it was going to fit right there. We never broke higher right there. We actually turned down and then went back up, and we just came on back down. So I don't think you want to buy right there. If you'd had a little better signal bar, maybe I'd mark that one green. It is a double, little, really almost a double bottom too. But you get a higher low right here, too much congestion, too bearish a bar, and then you actually get a reversal. It actually ticks lower, one tick right there, but I wouldn't even count that right here. There's your two legs up, so a failed second entry short with a nice bullish bar. The only problem I've got with this one is it's really close to the resistance, although there's 2 or 3 points in there. It doesn't look like it, but there's at least 2 points in there, so you got room to get out right there. And this thing even takes off higher. So I marked that one green. It's not a perfect setup. On a normal day where that's only 3 or 4 ticks, you wouldn't want to take that trade. But notice now you got a break. You got two legs up to a new high. We turned down off the former off resistance up there. You come rushing down, and look how this is how to know if you got a true possible reversal. Look how it doesn't even check up at the EMA. It shoots right through, then pulls back, and it actually breaks higher and turns and goes out the other side. I'd have a sell stop right there, ready to go short. Again, you get a little tick higher right there too. But this is your true failure. Now you got really two legs down, and there's little two legs in that. And nice bearish bar. It confirms that trend line right there. We're back inside this resistance right here. It's holding. You get a little double test of it. Notice you make that high. You test it once. You turn down. You come back and you test it again. There's a hidden second entry in there. Lots of reasons to like that one. Boom, off it goes. Then we come back. I don't think you want to buy here because we're looking for prices to come. This will just be the first break. So you're just looking for a chance to get short. Notice the new high, first entry, second entry, it fails. So if you can go short right there when it turns down. There's a little jog back right here, but I don't think I would enter right there. We run on down and we find the support here again at those lows, which I showed you. This was the low of the range. And you get this little failed break lower. And you see you've had your break and a new low now, and you're a long way away from that EMA, and this is probably going to fail. So generally you want to wait on a higher low, and unfortunately you don't get one here. So if you didn't take this one, you don't get to participate in that move. But I talk about these setups all the time, and they turn out to be important lows or highs of the day. And you can see this turned out to be an important low. And this thing runs up really from 30, 50, I mean, it's 70 points or so right there, I think. If you catch that, I mean, that's a nice move. That's all I can say about it. So, but anyway, that's your only chance to really get in. You can't join this thing way up here. Just wasting. There's actually a second entry long right there, but it's not one you really want to take. And you see you come up and you actually get a double test. I didn't mark this because this was so strong. I was afraid that we'd probably get a little trap here and go higher. But if you're looking at the rules, you make a high, you test it once, you test it twice, and that's a big bearish bar. I think the low, I'm not sure if those are matching highs. The low is just slightly lower, I think. So the high on that's 31.35. And that one's 31.34. So this one actually did go a little bit higher right here too. So that's one that I didn't mark just because that thing, it was hard to know what was going on right there. I'm just going, I'll leave that. This one should at least be green, I guess, but I didn't like it when it was, when I was watching this thing live. There's actually a second entry short right there, but you definitely can't go short there with the trend line still in play. And I would probably draw that more like that right there. And but when it turns back down right there, everything's still above the EMA, and you got a little support. It's a little risky, but it fits. There's a double test and all that stuff in there, and that's that this is probably an overdone move to move that high, or at least you assume it probably will be. You don't know anything. So that's the reason I marked it. But anyway, we run down and you get a little two-legged move back to the EMA here. I'm going to move that over and I'll talk about this. But notice that low, first entry, second entry. Um, and you made that high, you test that area once. You made a little higher high each time there, so you really can't call that a double test. But it's a second entry, and technically this is your signal bar. But this is so bearish, and there's, you know, in the big scheme of things, there's only a tick or two difference right there, so it's not a whole lot. So I wouldn't be afraid to go short right there because you got one leg down, you're probably going to get at least another measured leg like that. Leg one, and you know, so that's way down here. So you probably want to take that trade. And you don't really get another chance to enter this one. There's another second entry right here. It didn't quite get back to the EMA, so I was a little afraid of it. We are breaking lower there again too as well. We're actually breaking back down inside the upper the lower side of this thing. And so where was I? I guess I was talking about this one. So notice that first entry, second entry. This was the one I was talking about. Okay, we weren't quite back to the support resistance line. We weren't back to the trend line, but there is a second entry right there. The problem is this didn't quite make a new high, but it doesn't matter. Notice the low, and you break lower right there, and you break lower again. So that's a possibility. It's not a great setup really, but it's another possibility. And if you do take that one, your stop has to go above the high, so it would have to go above that bar because it's a little higher than that one. And then you get a true second entry right here with another, it actually broke higher and turned down, but either way you could have waited on that to close. And it looks like it's probably going to fail right there, but there's more than enough room and you scalp out and it reverses. So we did have a break and a new low in place. So that's another one that normally I would say, hey, you may wait on taking that trade. But as you can see, even if it fails, the movements are so big that you still got plenty of room to get out. And it actually comes back again here and breaks higher and turns back down. And same thing, you got enough room to scalp out again. So you could really argue for that one too. But by that time, it's obvious we're kind of, the resistance might actually lend you to taking those trades. But the problem is you got some fairly close support right there too. And then we just can kind of continue on up and come back. There's a second entry long right here, and that is the first break. So you might take that one. There was a failed second entry long there, but you don't want to take that trap because there's been no break of this yet. Even though you're looking for prices to go lower, I'm more apt to go long right there than short because your main trend line's back up here and we haven't got there yet. And that's the first break of this trend line working up. So you may go long right there. I think you're better off just sit tight. I drew this off of that high right there, but you could actually probably draw this like so. And it actually, after the fact, I think it actually fits better right there. You get a little overshoot, a break, and a new low. And then notice that low, you try to go lower once, try to go lower twice, and this actually breaks lower and turns up. There's you another trap right there, and we're not back here, so I like that one. There's another little two-legged move back to the EMA here, but we've already hit the trend line now, so I actually like going short on that double test. Notice you made that high, you test it once, you test it twice, you get a little bearish bar, you had a little close outside here. Couple legs up to a new high, and this is your main trend line, so I like that one. You get a lower high here. I'm not as crazy about it. I think you're better off to wait. and then you come back and make a little double top. This one actually broke hard and turned down. That's another one you could argue for. There's just so many trades here. I'll at least mark that one green. Then we're bouncing back up. Same thing. You make a new high, then you get a lower high that breaks higher, turns down. And then you get your reversal pattern right there. There's a shorter term trend line right there, and it's right off that too. But I ended up, there ends up being a little bigger channel here on top of this shorter term one. This one's actually just a little bit steeper than what, it's actually more like that right there. So again, another second entry short right here. Notice that low, first entry, second entry, but we're not back to the main trend line. We do have a break of this one. There's not a lot of room. There is enough room to scalp out, but that's not a very good signal bar. Come back here, and you're just kind of chopping lower, and I just don't see anything I like there. You're getting too far away from the EMA. No second entries or anything. And finally, we come back. And there's actually a devil test here. You can see that resistance. So you make the high, you test it once, you come back, you test it twice, and you come back a third time. Look how bearish that bar is. So test it once, twice, third time, turns down. You actually tested it more than 3 times there, to be honest with you. But you don't get a good signal bar till right there. Lower high here, not a very good one. Then you get 2 legs back to the EMA, first break of this little channel. But even though you made a lower low there, that's still 2 legs back. Nice bearish bar. So I like that one. And this thing took off to the races on, I mean, there's a lot of these it just takes off and there's runners on them. Got it go. Then we get a little overshoot here. There's a reversal pattern here, but everything's still below the EMA. Not a very good one. And we finally make another new low, and you get another reversal pattern, and it pretty much confirms that trend line right in here. So I like that one. Notice the low, first entry, you try to go higher again, second entry, it fails. And even though we're close to these highs, there's still plenty of room to get out. It actually comes back again. I'm not as crazy about jumping in on this one because you would think it would take off there. So if you weren't in here, I'd probably skip that one because by that time you really got a little bit too much resistance across there. I mean, it's questionable right there, but the fact that we're making these higher lows is a good sign. You get another bounce here, not a very good setup. Comes back, and again, you don't get a very good setup here till you get a higher low. Notice you finally make a low and a higher low. Nice bullish bar. You go along there, and you're headed higher again. There's a second entry long right here. Again, you're not back to the EMA yet. Or I'm sorry, you're not back to the trend line yet. And that's the first close outside, but you try to go lower a couple of times. You get a reversal pattern, not a very good one. So just better off to sit tight. And all of a sudden it turns down. So now you had a break, couple of moves up. Look at this thing shoot through the EMA. 2 legs back to the EMA, second entry short. Again, it doesn't go very far, but it's still a good trade. Comes back up, not a very good setup there. Same thing here. This one is really tempting because there's 1 leg up, correction, and another leg up, and there's actually 2 little legs in there. And you're a little bit away from the EMA. It did, I can't remember if this went higher or lower first, but it broke out one side and it ends up bearish. So you really could go short right there either way. I'll at least make that one green. It is a double top too. can see that double. You actually could argue for that to be a double test because you made a little double top here once already and come back and you come back again. But you can clearly see that 2 legs up. So we're probably going to get a correction. Off it goes. Lower high here, not very good. Then you're in this sideways stuff. You don't want to enter on that. But notice you got a new high here. I treated that like a new high. Technically, it's not because but you made a high. You're just kind of working sideways. You make that little 2-bar matching high. So you really can count that as a new high. Then you try to go higher once. You come down and you try to go higher twice. But really the way I looked at this was a double top. So a first entry and you're coming down second entry because that's so small there it's hardly noticeable. So it's really 2 legs down there. And there's actually a second entry here regardless. Notice that low, first entry, second entry. Look how bearish that is off the EMA, the trend line. That's where you want to go short. It comes back and makes a couple of little jogs back, but nothing in there. It's really interesting. Second entry short there, not a good one. It comes back up here. You make a high. You test it once. You test it twice. And there's a new low right there. So first entry, second entry short as well. And boom, off. Actually, you would, when it broke below that bar is when you need to go short, but your stop has to go above that one because that's made the high. And that is an inside bar. Normally, I'd say maybe you'd be questionable, but this is such a strong downtrend and we're headed down again. So you probably take that. There's another triple test right here, but that's just too much congestion, too many sideways and stuff. I mean, again, you could argue for it in this market. And you can see it, we just keep going sideways till it finally drops on down. There's another second entry short here. I didn't mark it because we had this big overshoot, but it comes back and tests it. So you had to figure that maybe this is the shorter term stuff is 2-tiered, but even if it is, you're already to the other side, which you can see there. So I'm a little hesitant on that one, but it is a second entry and it actually broke higher and turned down, so it's probably going to trap some people. I wasn't comfortable making it red, but we can at least make it green. We bounce and notice you're coming up and you actually make 2 legs up right there. Either way, you still can really look at that as a second entry short. Plus, it's right off the midline there. And it actually breaks higher and turns down. So your entry is 1 tick below that bar. I don't think I would wait till here because now you got 2-bar matching low. You're right into the EMA. But right here, you probably you can feel pretty safe. We're at least coming back to the EMA if we don't go further. So actually, I've already got that one marked. And we run on down and then bounce. First entry, second entry, another big bearish bar. Great entry. We bounce again. I don't like going long in here though. Not until we get something going up. And then we make that low. You test it once, you test it twice. There's a little bit of concern about this being sideways, but notice how we push on above it right there. So if it breaks above that, we're probably going on up. So I kind of like that one with that double test. Fails out the top. You get a lower high here, but not a very good setup. Again, it comes down here and fails out the bottom on a second entry long. So I like going long there. And then you get a failed second entry long. Notice that eye, first entry, second entry. Technically, it's not a failure, but it's looks like one. And look what happens. It runs on down. Plus, you got plenty of room to get out there, even if you're going to stay in the little range. And you can see when it moved up, it basically moved up an equal distance in between these 2 areas here. And then we start climbing back up here. I don't like going long. We're kind of stuck back in the original part right here until we get another double test. And we're probably at least going to here. So I kind of like that one back to there. And we run on up. And that really takes us into 2 o'clock hour. And there's a failed second entry short right there. It's just barely after first break of this short-term trend line. So there's another one you could argue for, really. I mean, it's just a couple of minutes after 2 o'clock. So, but yeah, wow, so many trades there. And I know I went through them quickly, but I wanted to be able to talk about all of them. And I'm limited on time because I've got to get out of here today. I've got to be somewhere with my daughter this afternoon at 4 o'clock, so I don't have much time. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.